Welcome to Global Village. We are very glad to have Anne from Brooks Victims Association and also Mr. Randy from Medicine Hat Police Services Unit. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anne, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and association, Victims Association?
Yes, I moved to Brooks about 6 years ago, and moving to Brooks, I had been told that Brooks was a good place to get involved in the community, and after 2 years of living in Brooks, I stepped down from my previous position, and a position came up with Victim Services, and I got hired within after a day's interview, and but I have loved my job ever since. And Victim Services, what we are, we work alongside with the police, and we do crisis intervention calls, and we provide services to victims of crime and also tragedy.
Wow. So you are connected to the RCMP?
We're not policing, but we're more of the social aspect of it. We're housed in the RCMP, and we work alongside with the RCMP in Brooks and Bassano.
Oh, and Bassano.
Yes.
Okay. Not other area of County of Newell then?
No, we do cover the entire county of Newell, but the only two detachments are in Brooks and Bassano.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Understand. Okay, Mr. Randy, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a police officer with the Medicine Hat Police Service. I have just under 25 years combined service. I initially was with the RCMP and joined Medicine Hat Police Service in 1997, and I've been with them ever since. During that period of time, I've had the opportunity to work in many different policing units. And as of this year, in April, I was transferred to a new unit that's newly formed by the Medicine Hat Police Service. It's the Safe Families Intervention Team, which is a unit that combines, it's a partnership with the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter as well as the police service, and it's housed in our new police service building.
Okay.
So
Wow.
I've been working with them since about April.
So they are more intervention then?
Yes, it is an intervention unit, that's correct.
Oh, so that's more to proactive then?
Yes, it's very much more proactive in that we actually follow up on the calls that our police officers attend during their shifts. Once they submit their reports, then we review the files to see who the people involved are, and then we try and contact them and offer them support services.
And what do you think, Randy, that the root cause could be as a domestic violence? I know there might be million root causes, but what do you think the most probable one that, from your experience?
I would say that when it comes to domestic violence, it all really comes down to a control issue, and it's individuals that seem to be trying to find who has more control in a relationship, and that's basically what the root cause of domestic violence is. Those people have different reasons why they're seeking control. It may have been their upbringing, it may have been their interactions through life, but I think basically it comes down to a control issue.
Usually they say control issue comes from low esteem, because if somebody feels little inferiority complex on their own mindset, they will try to control somebody just to make feel that they are the upper hand of this. A lot of people will react on control, but again, the benefit of a family is respect for each other.
Correct.
That's the and as an also immigrant person, there are also some discussion that I had some of the visible minorities in specifically in Brooks area, County of Newell, and their mindset was if the police receive a call from some minority group, they will deal the issue different than they deal mainstream Canadian. Would that be the way they perceive, as Mr. the inspector was mentioning, or that is something that fact is attached to?
Unfortunately, and also coming from Africa myself and being an immigrant here, and we have come from countries where policing is negatively viewed. So when you come to a different country, you know, you take your mindset with you. And then when the police here do the intervention, your mindset too is the same as you left at home, and you think they're here also with, you know, with their ways of doing things, and you see the intervention a little bit negatively. Unfortunately, a lot of these people come to this country with their, you know, with that mentality. But when they come to our office, it is our duty and responsibility to re-educate them and to help them see that this is a good thing. We're intervening in a situation that, you know, was not supposed to happen, is not supposed to happen, and many times our victims are not always safe in those situations. And by educating them, they will eventually understand. And we have seen a lot that have turned around and they've realized this is, you know, this is a good job and this is a good service that, you know, they're getting here in Canada.
Yeah, because I believe even some of them, I understand, think that if a wife called the police and for some reason the police come, they try to make things in a way of family issue, to intervene a family issue. But when that phone call is to the police, there is no coming back, because that's a complaint from a domestic issue. Some people have the view that they can intervene in a cultural way by elders and all that stuff. And that's also another problematic because of the mindset the individual is coming from.
Yes, and this is where they need to understand. When we left Africa, we didn't bring, you know, all our extended family, our, you know, relatives and all the chiefs and, you know, everybody that's supposed to, you know, sit down and listen to our problems. When we came as individual family units, and so you don't have that extended family where, you know, you can rely back onto, you know, so that they can intervene and probably even help mitigate some of these circumstances. So when you come here, of course, you are reliant on the services that are in the community, and where there is, you know, and of course, if something goes wrong, we all know the number to call is 911. And you know what? And who shows up when it's 911 call, and especially when it's domestic related? The police will show up. And again, as I said, it's a matter of educating and re-educating them, and they will eventually understand and get it. But you know, saying that, and there are cases where, you know, even after a 911 call and the police do show up, where charges are not laid. And in those situations, you know, we will sit down with them and we will do, you know, the extensive follow-up. If there is a community, you know, community of people that are willing to support this couple, to help them resolve their issues, and we will, you know, work with them. And in some cases, you know, we rely on other services like the counseling, you know, services that we have in town, or the mental health services. And we work with community agencies and also community people that are willing to help.
Without being laid charge then?
That is where, you know, where charges are not laid, you know, which means it's not going into the legal system. Okay. And once it goes into the, you know, legal process, that is completely different. And it's handled within the, you know, legal system, and that is where we advise them: could you allow the legal process now to take over, and everything will take, you know, its place, and you know, and they'll come out, you know, understanding, and he'll, he'll come out and probably he'll be required to go for counseling services and support services. And the legal system has a wonderful way of handling, you know, domestic violence issues too.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. And yeah, coming back, Mr. Randy. So the intervention that you have, what are the success?
Well, success, because we're such a new unit, the successes we hope to see in the future. Right now we have 3 people on our team. There's myself, which is the 1 police officer, and 2 outreach workers, which are from the shelter. And our goal is to try and contact everyone involved in a domestic violence file to follow up and offer some outreach services. So to have them come in to speak with us, whether we go to them or they come to us, to speak with them, determine what their needs are, to try and help them work through the system, and as well to provide additional education about cycle of abuse and violence and how it works, because a lot of times people don't have that understanding. So that's what we try to bring forward from our unit, and we also try to do danger and safety planning with them, so that should they choose to stay in that relationship, they have some tools there to make sure that they can stay safe.
Thank you very much. There is also an issue with regards to the children, for example. The way that immigrants discipline their children is totally different the way that Canadians discipline. And that's also a big issue of, I don't know, there was a book written by a Chinese lady, a Tiger Mom or whatever that book was called. It's a very much different the way the East countries discipline their kid and the way the Western. So what is the fine line of disciplining, for example, a kid, or crossing that to become abuse?
Well, that's a very good question, and there's been many people that have tried to come to an exact answer on that. And basically what the Criminal Code of Canada has said is that you can use certain amounts that are very minimal and corrective in nature to help with discipline of a child, but you can't go past that. And that's basically the determination of what goes past that tends to be put into the courts system and argued quite often about whether that is too much or whether it isn't. So that's, we look at it on a normal continuum from our perspective. There is some amounts of very minimal discipline that are allowed, but there is no anything set in stone per se that says here's what's acceptable and here's what isn't. It doesn't have a list.
That's good. I had a friend who phoned me one time and had a problem with his teenager. And I told him, well, you know what? Yeah, that's a very fine line. But my recommendation to you is you give him, the kid, a phone. All the privilege maybe you can negotiate with your son, because those are the privilege that you give it to him, not a right for him to have a cell phone, all that stuff. So you can probably, take away from the phone, take away the privilege that will, he will smell the coffee without crossing the border of being abused father.
That's correct.
That was my just personal opinion.
And I think it's a going trend too nowadays that actual physical contact in the form of disciplining is slowly on the down. It's deteriorating. That's not being used as more as frequently as it was previously. I think it's more on the lines of what you're talking about here by removing privileges as a more acceptable method of discipline for children.
And the kid and the father are very good now, because he took away all the privilege for 2 weeks. So he smelled the coffee, because those are things that the father was paying, not the kid. And what do you think the advantage of diversity population like the one we have in Brooks Medicine had? Usually it's diversity communities have an advantage, for example, to have a diverse community from different ethnic groups from the mainstream. What do you think the advantage could be, for example, of having a diverse population?
Especially living in Canada, it's always good to, go to a small town, especially like Brooks.
Yeah.
And when I first moved there, I felt like I just fitted. And in fact, I was told it's Africa within the continent of North America. And the first advantage is that many cultural groups, it brings a kind of a flavor into into the community, and we learn about each other, and we learn to get along with each other too, and also we also learn to understand different cultures, their foods, you know, it's an integration that is very, very interesting, and it's really good. It's also good, you know, for those that grew up in Canada also,
Yeah.
you know, to, you know, understand us, and it's really good. Yes.
Same question. What do you think, Mr. Randy, about the diverse population or diverse communities advantage?
Well, I think it's very good that people see how other people live and understand how they live, because when we see cultural differences
Yeah.
and religious differences, I think it gives us a better understanding and a better acceptance of other people,
Yeah.
which as a whole creates a more peaceful place, a peaceful world to live in.
And that is true indeed. There are some of the cowboys that, especially the farmers, sometimes when you talk to them, one of their argument in terms of diversity is they're being given too much, the new immigrant population. When you say you're being given too much, you're just generalizing the whole group of people.
That's right. I think that's an overgeneralization. I think
Generalization.
that's somebody's individual perception, and I mean, there are other people that probably share that perception. However, I think that it's good when we look at all the conflict that's going on in the world nowadays.
Yeah.
The more we understand people, and the better we are equipped to deal with that, I think the better the world will be.
No, that's very, very true indeed. And Anne mentioned that Brooks is a prime example of a small town with 80 different ethnic groups, not included the cowboys in the neighborhood. So that's a larger number of, and they get along very well. The county area not so much, because you have also Mennonites and all that other nationalities, especially from Denmark and those other nations. When you say immigrant, that includes also the people who immigrate from Denmark or Norway or other places. In case of you have a call from Rolling Hills or places like Tilly or those areas, would you respond to that area together with RCMP if there is a need, for example?
Yes, and the way Victim Services works is that we have a group of volunteers, and thankfully we do have a few of them that live in outlying areas, and we have one lady that lives in Rolling Hills. And so as soon as a call comes in and there needs to be an immediate response in Rolling Hills, she is right there on site, and the police know to call, you know, the Victim Services number, and then we will call her up and request that she responds to this address, and she will go there. And we're also equipped with 2 unit vans, so we're able to drive to whatever location that the police are, and whether it's Tilly, whether it's Dutchess, and or even as far or as Gem, you know, or Rosemary, and we can do that.
All the way to Gem?
Gem, correct.
Wow.
Yes, remember we service the entire county of Newell.
Okay.
Yes.
So you only have then someone in Rolling Hills?
Yes, right now we only have someone in Rolling Hills, but we do have one person in Bassano who can respond to Gem and Rosemary.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
So thank you, Anne. What do you say about the average call of domestic violence in Medicine Hat area? Is it increasing or decreasing the last many?
It is increasing, and it's increasing
Increasing.
quite rapidly, yes.
Oh.
As short as probably 2 to 3 years ago, we were dealing with roughly 250 calls of domestic violence per year. Last year in 2013, I think we were at 565 calls of domestic violence. And
Wow.
already this year, we are at that number, and it's the middle of October, so we are going to exceed again the number of domestic violence calls. And I think that was probably one of the reasons why, well, it definitely was one of the reasons why we started looking at trying to assist in bringing those numbers down through the use of intervention, and that was part of the reasons why we formed an alliance with the Medicine Hat Women's Shelter to start working together to combat and try and bring those numbers down.
So why you think that hike is then for the past year and a half, 2 years, based on
Again,
many combinations?
there's many combinations of things, but I think nowadays, I think life's pace has got very rapid,
Yeah.
and I think that that plays a big part in it. People are being pulled in so many different directions, and we need to be here and we need to be there, and it's not as simple of a lifestyle as it used to be in the days of past.
Yeah.
So I think that that increased pressure has also led to increased numbers of or increased incidents of domestic violence.
So when you say you talk about women's shelter, do you also have a men's shelter then here in Medicine Hat?
No, there is not a men's shelter in Medicine Hat. I believe there is only one men's shelter in the province, and that actually is in Strathmore. I believe that's the only shelter for men, and I don't believe there's many beds. There may only even be one bed, I'm not sure, but I believe it's one bed, and I think you have to have children involved in order to stay there. So the ability to access that shelter is somewhat limited.
Yeah.
So we need to look for other options if we do have somebody who is a male that is a victim
Oh.
to accommodate them.
I thought if I could be wrong, but I thought Brooks had sometime an idea of having a men's shelter.
They're looking into getting a men's shelter, and the new shelter that is going to be built on the east side of Brooks will encompass a male section to accommodate males that are affected by domestic violence. Correct.
So they're building now, or
No, and
that's the idea?
that's yes, that's the proposal, and it's yet to go through. And but once we get one, it will have a section for males.
So we must have then more than one bed, I hope. That because if it's something in the Bible that shows that there is a need then in Brooks for a male victim then.
Yes, there's always been a need, and it's not always women. You know, traditionally we think that women are, the victims, even though, the high percentage of victims are female, but we do have a smaller number that are male that are affected by domestic violence, and they do need a place to go to, especially when they're fleeing, and if they have children too.
Wow. So when you have a male victim, what's the procedure? Then you guys take the male and the children and accommodate them in a hotel?
Well, we don't accommodate anybody in hotels.
Yeah.
What we would try to do, we'd still offer our outreach services to them, and there is other agencies like the Salvation Army Shelter,
Okay.
where people can go and stay for short periods of time, but I'm not exactly certain whether they would accept families of parents and their children at the shelter. So that would be something that I'm not 100% sure on.
Especially when there is children involved.
Yes. And keeping in mind too that, Family Child Services or health services have the ability to deal with that aspect through the use of foster homes and also other facilities that they have that they can get children in for short-term care in the interim while some of the court matters are being dealt with.
But it's not so much male victim in the area.
No, it's not necessarily male victim oriented.
Okay. What are the challenges, thanks Randy, what are the challenges that we have in Brooks and County of Newell in terms of language and culture, for example? Do we have a challenge, for example, when there is
Yes.
a call to the police station?
Yes, and we've had cases, and especially when it comes to nighttime cases, especially when it's when it's an immigrant does not speak English. English is not their first language. They'll need an interpreter, and it does get a little bit difficult, especially in the night calls, because you can't get a person to interpret. Sometimes you can use language line, and language line, it's not always 100% that you will get someone to interpret. And so in that case, it has to wait until the following day. But we're also fortunate in Brooks to have different agencies that do offer translation services. For example, your Brooks and County Immigration Service, SPEC, Association for Children and Families. They do have a place where they offer translation services, and so we're able to get translation and services very, very easily. And during the day, during workout days. When it comes to cultural issues, even as we discussed before, it is the mentality, it is the cultural norm of those people. And it's for them to be able to understand what is legal and what is acceptable in Canada, especially when you bring your own culture, own mindset, your own behavior patterns that you have, back home. It is very, very difficult for for people to understand. We've had cases where they've come in and it's been reported that domestic violence took place, and they will flatly deny that anything took place. They don't see anything wrong with it. It is a cultural norm. And again, as I said before, it is a matter of educating them, for them to see it, for what it is, and for them to understand, and so that they can cooperate with the police and with the legal system, and to have the issues resolved. And it's an ongoing thing, and you can't educate somebody over 1 hour when they've lived that way, for several years. And they will need that support, even after, when it's gone through the legal system. And so this is where, community services come in, and to help them, educate them. And yes, cultural, sometimes culture can be a barrier, but it can be overcome.
So when you're referring, for example, the culture that they brought from back home, what about the Asians or the Latinos? Would that all come to the same triangle of the culture, or there is different?
We all come with our own cultural backgrounds, whether it's African, whether it's from South America, even Europe. We all have our little cultures, and but then there's nothing wrong with culture. It's when culture clashes with, with what is legal in Canada, and that is where they have to understand and re-educate themselves on how to behave, and to a point where it's legal in Canada.
So the basic thing is education is the important fact of these people, so they will understand the system
Absolutely.
more, so they will leave everything they had in their mindset
Yes.
back home.
Yes.
That's a very good one. What would you like to say, final word to the viewers in terms of domestic violence?
I would like to say that there is help out there. Domestic violence is prevalent within the community, and I'd like to leave my phone number if anybody would like to call, 403-529-8463. If you're in a domestic violence situation and you're looking for some information, please don't hesitate to call.
There you go, Mr. Randy. Thanks. Anne, would you have your final word to the viewers?
Yes, you know what? I'll echo what Randy said, and we're out there to help anyone that is in a situation with domestic violence. When it comes to victim services, I would advise you call the police first, and then you'll be referred to victim services. But there is an answer. You do not have to live in a violent situation all your life. Thank you very much.
There you go. Well, domestic violence is an important factor, so don't let anyone abuse you. Don't let anyone to control you, as you mentioned, Mr. Randy. So speak up and speak out, and I believe domestic violence in many different languages is domestic violence.
That is correct.
No need for translation.
That is
Don't
correct.
cross the line. Very simple mathematics. Don't play the victim card.
Yes.
Be nice and listen and obey the law.
Yes.
That is the bottom line.
Yes.
Thank you very much for coming, and
Thank you.
very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Mr.
very
Randy.
much, Ahmed.
This is the end of Global Village, and thank you very much for joining us. I would like to thank County of Newell, City of Brooks, and Medicine Hat College for their continuous support of the Global Village show. Until then, we hope to see you next time. Have a great one, and God bless you.